In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about traveling as vegan, how to do it, where you should go, and how to eat some unbelievably delicious food all around the world. Welcome to the Wanderlust Moment podcast, hosted by Noah
and Vanessa.
We're a married couple who loves traveling the world and sharing all those experiences with you,
whether it's good or bad.
So now let's jump right into today's episode. Alright, so maybe you're not too familiar with me or like my podcast or just like my lifestyle. If you're new, welcome, but I am a vegan. I've been vegan since 2017, like midway through 2017. So it's been a solid 8 years plus that I've been vegan at this point. So I was able to kind of learn how to become vegan in my own country, how to cook different foods, how to look at like eating vegan foods in different restaurants, social situations, which I think that can be a whole different like bag of worms, you know, going out to eat at restaurants, making sure there's things you can eat there without being like a huge nuisance. So when you're a vegan, you're kind of, if you're decently, I don't even say social, but like just from nature of being a vegan, you have to figure out how to make your diet and lifestyle work for you just in normal everyday life, and then of course in social situations, and that can cause some anxiety. So it's only natural that you're going to have some anxiety traveling around the world to different countries where maybe you can't speak the language that well, or they don't understand your language very well, and you're unfamiliar with like what to look out for, because obviously you have a pretty decently strict diet to adhere to. So let's talk about how to tackle that, because for me, as a traveler or someone that wants to, you know, not just go there to get like an Instagram photo, but really wants to visit places, to dive deep into the culture, to get the most like authentic, you know, like as a tourist, you can only get so much authenticity unless you do some crazy stuff maybe, but get the most authentic, deep, real, integrated experience possible. And as much as I love like a good vegan burger, I don't want to go to like Southeast Asia to get a veggie burger, or I don't want to just eat a salad in some parts of Europe, which I guess they do have pretty good salads in Europe, or South America, or Mexico, or Central America, or wherever may have you, you know? So there can be different routes of traveling as a vegan, more the survival kind of aspect, or just to prioritize getting local dishes. So trying the foods in the region and really having that unique experience, because like I said, I want to dive deep. I want to experience the culture, and food is a big part of culture, of course, whether it's like recipes passed down from like generations. It's part of like what they learn and what they appreciate and their comforts, and you can kind of experience that through being there. Or just sometimes even when you travel, local food can be a lot cheaper. Sometimes like the vegan restaurants that you eat in your own city, I'm sure you know, can be more expensive because maybe there's more of a thought on like health foods, and like health food restaurants are typically more expensive, you know, or they can be more trendy and more of like a niche kind of place, and there's like less of a supply. Some, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't want to get too much into economics, but it can be kind of not as practical to maybe like eat out at certain kind of restaurants and stuff. So let's talk about how to travel the world as a vegan, or even like in your own country or county or whatever. So the good news is, given that this is in 2025, there has never, and I mean never, been a better time to be vegan than now. Even when I first started being a vegan like 8 years ago, it's just like so freaking easy. Like, of course you can't eat everything under the sun everywhere you go, but in my own like town, of course, and I don't live in a big city. I live in a smallish town in the Midwest. You go to any grocery store and you could find, of course, well, one, like produce, duh. That's like your bread and butter. But you can find vegan like items, vegan like replacement dishes or things to cook with anywhere. And I know that's not just true for where I live, but lots of places in my country and other countries can be even better sometimes. So let's, of course, talk about how to apply this when you go out of the country or somewhere else. If you are really worried about like the options around you, which you might not need to be, it depends on where you go. One thing you can do is book an accommodation with like a little mini kitchenette. It doesn't have to do anything crazy. You can look for Airbnbs or maybe more like hotels that have that kind of style of thing. And then if you're living anywhere like it's not like in the middle of nowhere, or visiting anywhere that's in the middle of nowhere, you can go to the supermarket and cook stuff, And you might think, oh man, that's kind of intimidating. It can be, but lots of countries accept credit cards. So that ease of going to another country and like just going to the market and being able to buy something there if you need to without having to communicate perfectly in the language, and then just using your credit card and cooking it back at home. You always have that as like a base level foundation. If you have some kind of like cooking option or like cooking appliances in the place you're staying. So that's really easy. And of course, like you can find similar foods everywhere in the world: pasta, rice, vegetables, some kind of sauce. And that will always get you through and give you some nutrients, You don't need to be like the high protein vegan traveler. Although in a lot of places I've been to, you can find really good like vegan meat replacements, or they have stuff in their own cuisine that is more protein friendly, because in the West, our protein we mostly get from typically things like burgers, meats, that kind of thing, eggs. But other cultures, it's not necessarily the same. For example, Indonesia, they're really famous for like having tempeh, and it's not part of like every dish, but they use it like regularly in a lot of dishes. It's not just something that is used as a protein substitute for vegans. So when you go to different places, it can be really helpful to know what kind of local dishes there are. And this is what I really recommend you do is, there's just so many ways to tackle this topic. Show or travel to a place and try and find somewhere that has vegan versions of local dishes. How do you know this? The first thing I recommend you do is when you're choosing a place, use two apps. These are like the only two apps that I think you really honestly need. One is Google Maps, which you'll probably want to use anyway, because it's great for locations, for reviews, for learning or figuring out how to get from place to place when traveling, how long. Super freaking convenient when traveling. It's like probably the app I use the most. There's a couple others I use too, which I'll go into. And what you can do in Google Maps is just type in vegan restaurants in like a given area, hit search, and then the locations will pop up. And when you can go like so far in depth with this, you can like star the places that look good to you. You can read reviews and like search the keyword vegan if you want to like be extra thorough. Or you can click on the menu and look too, just to verify and see your options. And then you can see how far away they are from like the city center or the area or the neighborhood you're staying in. Because when I travel as a vegan, a big thing I want to consider is, are there going to be a decent amount of vegan friendly restaurants around me? Because I don't always want to worry about cooking, or especially if you're in a different country, maybe you don't want to have to like search far and away for food at the end of the day. I think when you're like going out and exploring different like neighborhoods or different parts of the city or area, doing some tourist activities, you can find restaurants like in and around you or have something to snack. But in the morning before you leave, or at night when you return home from your busy day of sightseeing and traveling, it's nice to just have a place close by you can eat at if you need. So I really recommend choosing an area where you can find a good amount of restaurants around you using one, Google Maps, or two, even better, Happy Cow. And Happy Cow, it's a free app, and it's built just to show you places with vegetarian and vegan options. And it can like even tell you which restaurants have vegetarian/vegan food, or only vegan food, or just like vegetarian options there. And then people still post pictures and reviews, and it's all people who are vegetarian or vegan usually. So that's like a super helpful resource. So I use both of those to kind of research where these restaurants are and what cities are vegan friendly. If you're choosing like a city, and that can be a really big factor, especially because some cities you could find like offer tons of vegan dishes that are like having local food, and there's other small towns that they just might have like some options just to get by. Let's like give a totally random example. Let's say you're traveling in Italy and you're going to Naples. I've done this. Well, this might not be the best example, but anyway, in Naples, it's a bigger city, so you can find lots of vegan restaurants, some that are more like kind of American food, some even like Asian restaurants, and of course local Neapolitan cuisine like pasta and pizza. And you can find this all across South Italy, and I'm sure Italy as well. And you can always like just know certain things. I'm trying to get off topic. So you can find the local dishes there. And like some restaurants, they might just have a dish that coincidentally is vegan. For example, let's say in Naples, Italy, you get marinara pizza. these like there's certain dishes that are always going to be like vegan unless there's like a freak occurrence, and if you want to be extra sure, ask the waiter or waitress. In some countries they might have a better conception of what is vegan than others, but again, I'll get into that more later. So you can try like local cuisine that is like specially made vegan too at certain restaurants, where maybe they have like a kind of vegan cheese. For example, I tried like vegan lasagna with like a vegan ricotta, or with like mozzarella and parmesan. It was so freaking good. It wasn't one that was just coincidentally vegan because it was a midding cheese. It was made for vegans to have like the maximally delicious, close to authentic as possible dish. And some people might argue, oh, it's not the real thing. I've had this has been the bane of my existence. I post some content on like Instagram or maybe TikTok or YouTube where I'm like, I'm trying, for example, ceviche in Peru. And ceviche, it's like a really delicious, fresh dish. I think it's a national dish of Peru, but typically it uses fish. And when I was in Peru, and I've been in other countries that serve it too, they just kind of use things to substitute fish. Maybe things that are more like flavor neutral, to have like more of like a squishy or like soft texture, like mushrooms or avocado. And everyone in the comments is saying, that's not ceviche, how dare you, that's not ceviche. And it's like, well, okay, maybe it's not like what comes to your mind, it's not the perfect version, but there's always different versions of dishes. It doesn't have to be like an absolute thing. Of course, you want like closest to the version that people love in that country, but it doesn't always have to be that way. So anyway, it's going to be really good. I've been vegan for 8 years, so I've been non-vegan for 21 years at this point, and I've had food throughout my whole life. This food is amazing. It's ridiculously good. You're not missing out, really. I really don't think so. Maybe you are, and we'll never know if you're vegan, even though like that temptation could be a little tempting. You have to have a good foundation of why you're vegan, which we can get into that later, of course. So anyway, my original point was, that's Naples, a big, busy city. If you're doing some like day trips to maybe some smaller islands, like I went to some smaller towns in Capri, which is like a really famous, beautiful island just off the coast of Naples. And yeah, I was able to find like just like a restaurant that happened to have pizza marinara, and it wasn't as good, but it just got me through the night, and it was pretty filling and a good price. Or I went to Sorrento, and the only restaurant I could find at that time that was like open during the season, it was a little bit off season, or very off season. It was January, like during COVID, and so like nobody was there. It was a freaking ghost town. But I found an Asian restaurant, and I got like some vegan friendly sushi and like Asian sides. So part of traveling as a vegan is figuring out when you can fully dive deep into the cuisine and when you can find some survival options just to get you through. And then if all that doesn't work, let's say they're all closed or whatever, I've never had this happen to me, like never, honestly. You could go to a market, you can buy some like snacks, some fresh produce, some breads, some kind of like nuts, and just to get you through. But that's never really happened to me. I usually just do that to buy as like snacks while I'm hiking or walking around the city or something like that. So that's kind of like how you should decide where maybe you can go, or like what your options may be, or what neighborhoods you should stay. Now let's talk about going to some restaurants, because let's say one of the beautiful things about traveling is the spontaneity. I truly think like it's fun to kind of like plan an itinerary and have some places you want to visit, some like restaurants that you kind of have on a checklist, but it's fun to kind of just like wander in a place that catches your eye. Luckily, again, we're in the digital age. You can look at menus online. You can like ask to see a menu of a place you go. And then there's another amazing app, guys. You might have heard of it. It's called Google Translate. And if you're brave, you can go up to a person and translate like English to the language if you don't speak it, of course. Let's say like Japanese or Korean or Mandarin or Italian, whatever. And you can translate like, oh, do you have any vegan food? Or do you have any food without? I think if you're in Asian countries, vegan isn't always a word that is known. So I try and like describe my diet, which in some languages I can actually say that, but in some I would say, I cannot eat, and then list the ingredients. Do you have anything without that here? Something like that. Or do you have any food without eggs, milk, fish, and so on? Because there could be some confusion. You could say, sometimes also countries, this is a big one, they confuse vegan with vegetarian because it's kind of like a mistranslation thing. So you just kind of want to like, if you're really doubtful and you don't know what's in the ingredients of the dish you're eating, that's a good way to kind of translate and get your point across. And they can tell you, and if they don't feel, I've had this happen to me, where I say like, oh, I can't eat this, and they just feel uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I can serve you, I don't feel comfortable. Whatever, like, it happens. It's like, if you see like a little food stall and they're selling something that looks good and interesting, they might not have like an explicit menu with ingredients, or there might not be a review on Google or on Happy Cow. You kind of just have to go up there and approach it and like try and figure it out. And what is really helpful, this is something I always do, is before I travel anywhere, I look up, and this is why I love the internet, and like it can kind of like take away sometimes the authenticity and adventure of certain experiences traveling, but just the information provided is just so amazing and it's so helpful. Is you can read like blogs, or maybe even with AI it can help you out at this point, but I will search like vegan dishes when traveling in Greece, or vegan dishes when traveling in Thailand, and there'll be blogs of dishes that are like by nature vegan, just by like the ingredients that are used. So you can already kind of in your mind have an idea of the dishes you should be looking out for to try that are good. Or maybe this is a big one, because traveling as a vegan, you can't always be perfect. Do the best you can, and like it's always good to ask questions and figure out when you can. But there's some dishes that might be accidentally not vegan that you might not think about. Especially like maybe some Asian dishes could have like fish sauce in them and you might not know. Or in Japan, they could have dashi, which is like it's made from fish. So there's like these kinds of like subtle ingredients that you don't even really taste, or you don't even think about, because from like Western cuisine, you might think like, oh, butter, that could be one you'd have to keep in mind. Cheese, meat, egg, not these little hidden little additives that add some flavor depth to like a vegetarian looking or vegan looking dish. So reading blogs can be super helpful to get like a framework of that cuisine. And I write these dishes down on my phone, or I save the blog, take a screenshot of the page, something like this to reference is super helpful. And another thing, of course, is just watch. There's really good YouTube videos out there, or TikToks. So use social media to your advantage to research, save them, pin them, type in like vegan restaurants in my city. You can see what the dishes look like to see if they're really delicious. Sometimes they might review them, and you can just kind of like put together a little list of places that look really good, so that way you don't feel like you need to miss out on trying local dishes, because like maybe one place, say you're traveling to Osaka in Japan, and a local food they have is okonomiyaki, which is like a really delicious savory pancake that normally uses eggs and bonito flakes. So that's like fish and of course eggs, and sometimes they may put meat in there too, but there's restaurants that specifically make vegan okonomiyaki. So that's like a dish from that region that you can actually look out and try to have. And that's a really fun thing. So use those resources, those apps to help you. Use Google Translate. And I got a little off topic. You can either translate sentences, or what's even better, especially in countries that the alphabet is very different than ours, the Romanic alphabet that is you can use Google Translate Camera to take a picture, and it will translate the dish. And sometimes the ingredients are listed, and it'll translate the ingredients, and then you can kind of research from there. Or even better, if you're at the market or a convenience store and you're reading through the ingredients, use Google Translate to take a picture, and then it'll help you out. If you're in some European countries, maybe you'll start getting like a little bit of an idea of like things like leche in Spanish, meaning milk, or formaggio, something like that. In Italian, meaning cheese, and there might be some like arbleu, I think is cheese in French, and you can see like some similarities between like maybe French, Italian, and Spanish, or maybe some German or something, so that could help you out, just like scanning through ingredients. And a lot of times at the bottom it will say if there's like some sort of allergen information there, that can be really helpful. So Google Translate Camera is so effective and efficient. So what else is really helpful? I'm going to be totally honest, and this isn't like me trying to pitch anything to you, but having internet while you're traveling is so important. You don't absolutely need it, but it can be such a lifesaver. Just one for looking stuff up while you're traveling, Google Maps to get around and finding out where you can go on the spot. And if you want to like use Google, your camera, I think you need some data signal to do that, for Google Translate that is. So it can just really help you figure things out on the fly and have like the ability to figure out what's vegan and all your resources and options available. So again, just to recap, the apps I really recommend you use: Google Maps, Happy Cow, Google Translate, and having either like a data SIM or an eSIM to help you have internet access while you're out and about. Super helpful. Makes the world of difference. I've never had like a super hard time being vegan while traveling, using those apps and like planning ahead and knowing the neighborhoods to stay in. So that's how to travel as a vegan. And that kind of plays into where you should go as a vegan, because I kind of talked a little bit about like the neighborhood and like how to pick that with Google Maps and Happy Cow, and looking at like the dense or areas with a density, high density of vegan or vegan friendly restaurants. But like, are there certain countries that are better to travel to or visit? I don't really think so, to be honest. Like, again, like I said, we're in 2025 and it's so easy to be a vegan and traveling. I think the hardest thing really just comes down to how rural you want to get when you're traveling. Because there's some countries where maybe the local cuisine can be more catered towards, or more naturally have a tendency towards less like animal ingredients. So some examples of this, truly, I think would be maybe like Indonesia. If I'm thinking about some of the dishes and recipes, they might have some meat, they might have like some pork and stuff, but you can very easily get like a vegan version of a lot of these dishes, like mie goreng or nasi goreng. This is like a fried noodles and fried rice dish, and like, yeah, maybe they might have some meat in them, but without meat, you can ask for no meat. Or maybe they have like tofu or tempeh as an option. Vegan. Another country that I'm actually working on content for that is actually pretty naturally vegan friendly is Greece. And of course, Greece has things like the Greek salad, or you might think of things like gyro or souvlaki, which have like skewered meat in them. But not to get too much into history, but we talked to, or our experiences, I guess, which, hey, it's a podcast. So if it happens, it happens, you know. This is the right kind of format for it. But one of our hosts, we were telling him we're vegan, and because he was recommending some food, and we were just trying to like, sometimes people will go on about like food that has like meat, and we're like, oh, okay. And it kind of gets awkward. It's like, yeah, we're vegan. And they've been like going on, and I don't want them to feel like we're judging them too much, because I think sometimes, tangent, people get a little bit like prematurely defensive, because like by people being vegan, they might feel like they're being judged for their choices, which yes and no, because like obviously like things are more societally acceptable. So I don't think someone's like a bad person necessarily for like eating meat or whatever, and like there's strong ethics involved in veganism, which is why like people like myself adhere to it even when traveling, and it can make things slightly more inconvenient. But anyway, so we told him that we're vegan, and he's like, oh, well, actually, like a lot of Greek food is like naturally like vegan or vegetarian, because Greece is kind of a poor country, so eating meat was more of like a luxury. So a lot of our dishes, like traditionally, have been like very vegetarian oriented, and this is definitely true. We tried hamista, which is like a stuffed pepper or tomato with some like seasoned rice, and it's so good, so fresh, so delicious. Or gigantes plaki, which is like a giant bean, which is like with tomato sauce and some herbs and garlic. It's so good, and actually has beans, so it's like more protein, more filling, you know. It's not just having like a salad. So anyway, some of these countries that have more traditional, like a vegan oriented or vegetarian oriented food, the small towns you go to in these countries, those are going to be the places where maybe you're in the best of luck. Whereas if you go to maybe some countries, let's say like South Korea or Japan, you have to know like certain dishes that are most likely to be vegan or vegetarian or whatever. Because there's certain dishes that will like 99.99999% of the time be vegan, unless there's like a freak occurrence that they did something else I never heard of. And there's some that there could be like 50-50. It depends on like what ingredients they use, and that's where you can have a conversation. Or you can go in like emergency mode, where it's talking about having a kitchenette. Or in some countries, especially Asia, and this is why I love Asia so much, is they have like god tier convenience stores. God tier. Places like Taiwan. Oh my god, Taiwan. I miss more than like almost any restaurant I've been there. There's 7-Elevens and convenience stores, because what they had, it's just my favorite thing ever, is where do I even begin? So it might not be the healthiest, but in the frozen food section, it is ridiculously vegan friendly. They had like satay vegan shrimp, which might sound a little weird, but satay, it's like this kind of sweet, spicy peanutty sauce. Oh, it was just so freaking good. I would have it for breakfast with, you can get some like fresh banana at the convenience store. You can get like a big coffee there, which is, I thought was pretty tasty as well. Or some like kind of like canned coffees and stuff like that too. But I could get like a fresh brewed coffee there. I would also get like a special kind of sushi, which is called inari sushi, which this is Japanese too, and I think it's vegan there. Oh no, it definitely is vegan in Japan, which is like rice with like wrapped in like tofu skin that's like seasoned with like a sweet vinegar, I think. So it's like sweet and salty. So good. I would have that for breakfast in Taiwan. Um, with satay shrimp, and they also had like a vegan like popcorn chicken, I think, as well. Like, and they also have like a black pepper tofu. I would have like a buffet, and they have these little areas where you can sit too. Some had some bigger areas with my coffee, maybe get like a juice too, and just a total array with some fruit and some like kind of like naughty, like savory Southeast Asian, East Asian goodness. Because that's what I love about Taiwan is it kind of combines a lot of East Asia and Southeast Asia. It's kind of like in the middle, without getting, I'm not going to get into political stuff, of course, but so, or maybe I should. Let me know. Let's just say me saying Taiwan gives certain opinions. But anyway, that's all I'll give you. And then you have countries like Thailand where it's not quite as good with having numerous options, but they have, I think, possibly my favorite vegan convenience store item I've ever had in my life, which is pad krapao, which I make to this day. And this is why I love traveling so much, is you can have these delicious foods there, and you can introduce it into your cuisine at home. Which pad krapao, it's like a spicy stir fry with basil. And I never really thought of using like basil in Asian cuisine that much. I typically associate it with Italian cuisine, but just the garlic, the like a little bit of like umami soy sauce flavor, the saltiness, the spiciness, that fresh basil like zip. It's so good, and they have a vegan version, a totally vegan version where they use like a vegetable protein, kind of like a tofu kind of thing, a soy thing. Oh, and it's so good, and it's so affordable too. It's a pretty good size. I think it would be like $1.50 or something. Oh, so good, so good. So anyway, if you go to like a small town in these Asian countries, you can go to the convenience stores and like, yeah, maybe that might get a little old after a certain time, or you want to go to like a sit-down restaurant, but just for options and like actually cool, unique experiences. It's some of my favorite experiences, going to the convenience store, eating there, or bringing it back home and chilling out, watching some TV, or watching a sunset, or you go to the beach, even better, go to the mountain. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. So anyway, depending on the country, you can eat, and that's where you can split up your time. I'm sorry. So maybe you want to spend a lot of time in like a city center or a very popular touristed area. These ones are without like exception, honestly. I really think so. I haven't traveled to every country. I've been to 20, so I feel like I have a decent like pool or decent level of experience to reflect on. I've never had a hard time being vegan, like never. The hardest place truly to be vegan, and it wasn't hard, it was just slightly inconvenient, was Seoul, South Korea. And there's plenty of delicious vegan restaurants there. It was just poor planning on my part. I chose Myeongdong, which is a neighborhood kind of in the center of Seoul. It's kind of like equidistant to every neighborhood. And there was a couple vegan restaurants in the area, but not that many. And maybe they're open during like select times, so it kind of got a little stale. We should have stayed in a different neighborhood, I think, truly. But at this time, I've done some research, and actually this neighborhood, Myeongdong in Seoul, has a lot more vegan restaurants. And there was one like 3 minutes down the road now. It wasn't open when we were there, of course. And it's, guess what? Vegan Korean food, which, as the guy that loves wanting to try vegan local dishes, that's kind of like a slap in the face. But maybe my energy or my vegan guides I've made or videos, it kind of like created more of a demand for veganism in South Korea. That's what I'd like to think. Definitely not the case. But so anyway, that's like my hardest option. And the only time it was really an issue was, like I said earlier, when you get home at night, you're tired, you're hungry. I did a lot of cooking. It was like a share house, so we had like a basement area where you had like a kitchen, and that could be a little frustrating sometimes because maybe some other people are using the kitchen to cook. So you got to plan that and maybe cook quick so you feel like people aren't waiting too much on you. But I went to the grocery store, piece of cake. Everything was easy peasy. So where you should travel, anywhere you want. I really think so. Anywhere you want, with some planning, some preparation, using these tools, you can find different varying levels of veganness, I would say. And if you want to like feel like you have some assistance, I guess, in like those doubtful situations, those apps are super helpful. So now let's talk about my favorite places to be a vegan when traveling, because there's plenty. And I guess this really just comes down to what food you like. Really, because I think the options are really good in most places. the first place I traveled to with my wife and our like vegan slash just our travel lifestyle together was Mexico. And I love Mexican food so much. And the first place we went was Tulum, which I love Tulum. I'll always love Tulum. I went back a few years later and maybe had a slightly different feeling associated with it, but that's okay. Maybe it was me that changed. Maybe it was it that changed. It was still fine. It was still really fun. It's also just kind of dangerous revisiting a place you absolutely love the second time because maybe you're like not in that quite same high. Things are not as new and fresh as maybe they once were when you went there. So keep that in mind. But anyway, I think we stayed in Tulum for a month. We were doing like digital nomad, kind of long, slow travel. And I think we ate at 30 different restaurants in Tulum. We counted. I think it was either in the 20s or at 30. Let's say 25, just to play it safe. And most of it was local Mexican food. So, and Tulum's not a massive place. It's not like New York City, where in New York City you could probably eat at hundreds of vegan restaurants, or hundreds of restaurants that have vegan options. But Tulum, it's not big at all. Like you can walk from like one end of the town to the other in like 20 minutes. So, yeah, I'd say about 20 minutes. And oh my God, the food there was incredible. They have amazing tacos, which that's my first time trying tacos in Mexico, and it's a completely different level, guys. You could have tacos made with like soy, you could have tacos made with mushrooms, you could have tacos made with like maybe some beans or legumes and like different salsas, like 10 plus different kinds of tacos, ranging from like carne asada, chicharrón, chorizo, pibil, bistec, and so on. Just carnitas, so many tacos. And you can also try things like one of my favorite breakfasts now, but my favorite breakfast definitely in Tulum, Mexico, was chilaquiles, which I've done a whole podcast about Mexican food because I love it so much. And we ranked it and it was really fun. But just for a little mini debrief to give you an idea of like the delicious foods you can eat, it's like a dish of kind of like refried bean style or mashed beans, but they use like black beans, so it's kind of just picture beans in like a paste, kind of like a refried bean, and then it's served with corn tortillas that are like marinated in a delicious kind of like chile salsa, so a little spicy, savory, peppery, and then it was covered in like a vegan crema with some avocado, some cilantro, some lime. So freaking good. I love it so much. I could go on and on. That's Tulum. Tulum's definitely one of my favorites. And I thought Tulum was my favorite like food destination in the entire world. But I think Mexico City is pretty close because I went there a couple years after as well. And we didn't have as much time as we did in Tulum to like eat around. But just the food there, it's incredible. Same thing. You can have tacos. You can have the same variety of like different sandwiches like tortas, which I love tortas. They're like Mexican sandwiches with like kind of Mexican style ingredients. Think beans, some kind of like vegan meats, some chile, all this, maybe some cheese, all the stuff you love, but in a delicious, different kind of format, And then they have a churro shop, a churreria, I think is the name of it, like a churro store, and they have vegan churro options, and it's a chain like in Mexico City, so there's plenty of places where you can get like vegan churros for a really good price. And that's what I mean, like the ease of having vegan food is just ridiculous. And that's in Mexico. I really enjoyed the food in Greece, and we ate in like all the different islands. It was incredibly fresh and delicious. Oh, excuse me. I think we only ate at maybe 2 or 3. I want to say maybe 3 off the top of my head. Restaurants that were specifically catered for vegans, but a lot of places I just found them on Happy Cow or Google Maps, and their vegan options were just incredible. And that's another amazing thing about like the day we live in is especially places that have like some level of tourism. They know that there's going to be vegans traveling there, and they know if they have like some vegan options, they might get some more business. They might help them like stand out from among others, or just maybe because like people ask them a million times with like the volume of tourists that come to certain places, they will sometimes have a special vegan menu. And when that happens, I'm like, oh, thank you, because then you don't have to play the guesswork game. You don't have to be like, oh, this dish seems like it's usually vegan, but should I ask just to be sure? Are they going to understand what I'm meaning? No, it is specifically marked on the menu for you. It takes out the guesswork. So that's what I love. There's restaurants that even just have vegan options. Sometimes it'll be like a separate section of the menu for like vegetarian/vegan, and then you can ask. Or I'll have like a little vegan option symbol on the menu, or a vegan menu just separately. So I really enjoyed the food in Greece as well. Japan, I love the food in Japan. Tokyo is super vegan friendly. Kyoto, I think, is like pretty close too, because it's like not as big of an area. And if you know where to stay, we ate at like a different place every night easily in Kyoto as well. And then, yeah, I could go down the list. I really love Thai food. It's delicious. It can be vegan friendly. There's lots of tourism in Thailand from like Europe and America. So there's a demand for veganism. And all the places I visited, I found good vegan options. And some are better than others. And of course, you can do research online because, yeah, I think it's pretty easy to be vegan. Like almost anywhere you travel. Again, maybe if I went to some places, maybe in like some parts of Africa, or maybe a little bit off the beaten path, maybe in like the Middle East or Eastern Europe, it'd be a different story. So I totally admit, putting my hands up, I haven't done it all. Experiences can vary, I'm certainly sure, but I don't think it would be impossible. Where was I going with that? So anyway, yeah, Thailand, just really freaking good dishes, curries. And like I said, eat the local foods. And then maybe if you go to the grocery stores, you can try and recreate your own version. So that's where I'm going with this. And why should you be vegan, guys? I don't want to give like a whole spiel, but maybe you're not vegan. Maybe you've just listened to this because you've listened to some of my other episodes and you're interested and you think, this still sounds like more of a headache than I like. Why would you do this? So for me personally, and I think this is like what applies to most people, is that veganism, it's like a moral, ethical principle. And what it really comes down to is food is amazing. It's great. It gives us comfort. It sometimes can give us like meaning in some certain ways. So I'm not trying to like downplay the importance of food. And culturally, people can argue like food is a part of culture and that's like a sacred thing. And it certainly can be. But at the end of the day, it's the enjoyment we get from our taste buds. It's how good that food feels to us to consume it. And it really just comes down to, is that pleasure? Is that selfish enjoyment? Is that more important than causing death to innocent animals? And I think for most people, it's not. And I think most people, if they're honest to themselves, you can't really defend it and argue against it. But sometimes you just have to think about, like, would I eat a dog? A lot of people get outraged when they see things that happen in China, like there's a dog festival, or I forget which part it is in, and it's upsetting to me. But sometimes I get more upset about the feelings of hypocrisy from people that are so outraged, but I know eat pork all the time, or they, so it's like people just generally, they love animals and they have empathy for them, and they have an understanding that animals can feel pain and suffering and happiness and pleasure, and that they can be smart enough to deal with these emotions and like feel fear. And this is a necessary product of the food we eat and like things we consume. So I think for a lot of people, if they're honest, that just enjoying the way something tastes, it's not more important than causing that level of suffering to like an animal. And in perpetuity, it's not just the suffering, it's not just the death, it's the conditions that they're in. Not that even if they were in the best conditions ever, I don't know if someone ran up to your dog and it was living a good life and shot it in the head, and so I don't want to get too graphic anyways, and ate it. It's like, oh, well, it lived a good life, so it's okay. No, you're taking something away that's valuable. And in my instance, I truly, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I'm not coping. I swear. I don't think I've missed out, like, traveling the world as a vegan. I've tried authentic dishes in all 20 countries I've visited. I don't think there's been a single country where I just ate veggie burgers or something like that, which they could be some really good veggie burgers in places you travel, but I've delved deep into the cuisine. I've tried local dishes. I've had a great time. So keep that in mind. And if you're considering veganism, I think it's important to ask yourself, contend with the moral and ethical implication. Would you be okay, like, with the hypotheticals I gave you? And is your taste truly, like, do you feel confident saying, like, yeah, that is more important? I don't think it is. And if it does, if you truly feel that way, I might have to like question your morals, because I think a lot of people just choose like what's convenient, what's easy, what's familiar, what's comfortable, what's like makes things less frictionless in their social environments and like circumstances. And when you travel, you're already being put outside of your normal like social environment and your normal social dynamics, and that's part of what makes it fun and exciting and like different. So don't be afraid of being vegan and like having that like extra level of uncertainty or maybe anxiety or figuring things out, because that's the reason we travel in the first place, and just view it as another kind of little challenge. Not that it's like a difficult one, but another little thing to like be like, oh, I found an amazing vegan restaurant or amazing vegan cafe and bakery, because that can really increase my excitement as well, finding those things and having those experiences, which I hope you can have too. So anyway, that's how and where to travel as a vegan. I think this is super helpful for myself and hopefully helpful for you as well. And keep on eating some delicious vegan food in your hometown, in your home, and anywhere you decide to go. And don't miss out on the beautiful dishes and cuisines all across the world just because you want to have a diet that doesn't take away the life or cause suffering and pain to innocent animals. So that's really what it comes down to. Thanks for listening, everybody. Check out my next episode of the Wanderlust Woman Travel Podcast. See you soon. Peace.